Hello, hope everyone is doing well today, and thanks for clicking on this video. Definitely want to discuss something about my neighborhood. I was inspired for this discussion based on a couple experiences this past few weeks and in the past, of course, and I thought, why not, discuss it. I'm sure a lot of people can relate to it. I mean, if you're from that type of neighborhood, you grew up what they call the hood. I don't like to say the ghetto, but we grew up in the hood, most of us, and a lot of people. I've met a few who've managed to get up and go and move. I did the same. I lived 5 years in North Carolina. It was the best experience I've ever had. I would like to, move back if it's right, of course. But there are people who are ashamed of where they come from. There are people who are ashamed to have friends visit because they're not from, Fifth Avenue or, in a ritzy place or cleaned or, I can't control the building where I live. You may not be able to control the building I'm talking about. I'm from New York City, so everyone has their issues with their own super or not, or have it or don't have any, which is great if you don't. But the majority of people from Manhattan, Washington Heights know that not all supers do their job, especially the building where I was born and raised. My mom still lives there. But anyway, I get a little sad at the fact that some people are ashamed of where they come from. They're hesitant to say where they're from, and if they do, they try to do everything they can to distance themselves from where they grew up. First of all, yes, I grew up, back then was a really bad neighborhood. I grew up where, I was born in 75. So by the 80s, I was seeing the worst of the worst. Like, it was, the Washington Heights area, the New York City was all about cocaine, crack. It was really bad. The violence was really bad. My mother lives on the third floor to the front, so you could see, third floor, you could see outside of the street and everything. So imagine me running to the window, which I have lots of memories of running to the window and seeing things I shouldn't have never seen in my life, or just walking back from school seeing things I should have never seen. But I saw it. People getting shot, stabbed. As a young child, hearing what someone moaning in pain sounded like. Having no idea what was done to the person, but I'm seeing blood running down the sidewalk. It's just a reality of growing up in the hood. Either it breaks you or makes you. And it definitely made me who I am today. Very few things surprised me. Very few things scared me. I've seen a lot in my life. I've been around things where, I had to duck down in cars, behind cars, run inside buildings to avoid shots being fired. And this is back then when things were worse. My mother's neighborhood is not like what it used to be. So in a way, it's good. There's still, of course, presence of drug selling, but it's not what it used to be, where you don't have to be running around afraid of getting, of a shootout or something like that. It's nowhere near that. I think it has gotten better so much. But my point is, I'm not ashamed of where I came from. I came from the ghetto streets of Washington Heights. It is what it is. That's what my parents was able to afford to live. My parents did the best that they could. It made me who I am. At no time did it send me down the wrong path. People have a choice. Either to be the opposite of what you see in the streets or join them. And I've always did the opposite. Don't be afraid of where you came from. Because if you're not living in the hood anymore and you're doing well for yourself, the fact that you came from the hood, I think, has an advantage of those. I think it has a little bit of advantage. For instance, it teaches you how to hustle. And I'm not talking about street hustle. I'm talking about hustle in life. It teaches you to do what you have to do on a little bit of whatever, a little bit of money, on a little bit of food. It teaches you to find resources on your own. It teaches you how to be strong. It teaches you how to appreciate that if you're eating a bowl of rice with just ketchup on it, that's how I used to eat it. When that was all that we had, you know, at that time, just a little bit of rice and some ketchup on whatever, bowl of rice, you appreciate that. You appreciate your next meal when it's chicken and steak. You appreciate all those ideas that you come up with, being extremely resourceful when something's broken, something's not quite working, and you find ways to work around it. I think this young generation is a little weak. Spend too much time with their head in technology, which that's great because technology is growing more and more. But we have to allow children to think from themselves. You know, what if they have no iPads and games and other things to think outside the box and be creative? I had to go through all that. So I'm not ashamed that I'm from Washington Heights. Shout out to 160 between Borough and Amsterdam, where I was born and raised, and definitely taught me how to be tough. Taught me to keep my mouth shut when you need to keep your mouth shut, and you know what I mean by that, and to speak when you need to speak, and you know what I mean by that too. So I'm not ashamed, not ashamed of not ashamed of bringing anyone to my mother's house because of the building that she lives in, when she's in a beautiful, clean bedroom, a beautiful, clean apartment, excuse me. You know, there's no control of what's in the building, but you can control your actual nest of where you lay your head. Don't be ashamed. I'm sure you are in your life where you are now because of your upbringing. My father raised me to be tough because that's all I saw was him trying to be tough, doing this, and with tough thinking and tough love. Annoying back then, but it makes sense now. So be proud of where you came from, because all the hustle that you did at work for those promotions, all the hustle that you did in school to get that college degree, all that hustle that you're doing to pay your bills, I'm sure it came from growing up in the hood. You took the negative and turned it into a positive, and that's all I'm saying. Like, a lot of celebrities came from the hood, and I'm sure that a lot of their thinking process of them trying to be famous had a lot of street hustle in them. And sometimes you got to put a little street hustle in your way of thinking, to get where you need to get in life. Appreciate those struggles. That's all I'm saying. There's a lesson behind every struggle. So I'm going to leave you on that note. I hope everyone enjoys their day and be blessed. And like I always say, keep it real.